First person out of the box in that prosecution memo we went over is Mr. Ronnie Saban, right? Did you know that?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you knew him as one of the agents involved in the search, correct?
That's correct.
Were you aware that he was an employee of the Securities Board and was involved in the criminal case where charges were filed and pending at this moment still against the Attorney General?
Objection, assume facts not in evidence.
Did you know that? That's all I'm asking.
Sustained.
Were you aware of what his role was?
Of the gentleman, I think you said Ronnie Saban?
Yes.
No, sir.
All right.
I just only knew him as one of the individuals who had searched Mr. Paul's residence.
Fine. All right. And then different other people. Did you know that Mr. Ray Chester, who was on your list, was opposing counsel in a lawsuit with the Mitty Foundation? Just did you know?
No.
All right. So did Mr. Wynn provide you these names without informing you that part of what they were seeking was information with people that were either in litigation against the Attorney General, namely the criminal charge pending, or in litigation against Mr. Paul,
Okay,
namely the Mitty Foundation? Were you aware of any of that?
Multifarious, assuming facts not in evidence.
It's all in evidence.
No, it's not, and it's multifarious.
We have heard, well, excuse me, let me let the court rule.
Overruled.
Thank you very much. Were you aware of that?
I'm sorry, could you please rephrase that question?
So did Mr. Wynn provide you these names without informing you that part of whatever they were seeking was information with people that either in litigation against the Attorney General, namely the criminal charge pending, or in litigation against Mr. Paul in the Mitty Foundation litigation? Did he inform you of that?
No, sir.
And had you made arrangements with Mr. Wynn for him to go on these services of subpoenas with you?
So he was insistent on going.
What did he, I mean, how long had he been insistent talking to you about wanting to go with you?
Just maybe a day or so. I told them, I was informing them of what I was going to do to serve. I was going to go drop off the subpoenas, and he was insistent on going, and I was like, no, you don't really need to do that. I didn't really think it was appropriate. But he said, I'm Nate Paul's lawyer, and it's important for me to be there in case they ask you any questions about his case or anything that's going on. And so, I felt a little pressure to say, okay, and he rode along with me.
Share with us why you felt pressure to accede to that.
I think just kind of pressure to perform. I wanted to do a good job, and I frankly trusted Michael.
Right. Did he inform you there was a statute prohibiting an interested party from serving subpoenas?
I was not aware of that.
And then what was the next thing that happened in your relationship, in your conduct with this?
I got a cease and desist letter.
From whom?
From a gentleman named Mark Penley.
What did you do?
I responded to his cease and desist and said, okay.
And then did you do anything else besides respond to it? Did you reach out to anyone?
I reached out to Mr. Paxton once I got the cease and desist.
Were you successful in reaching him? How did you reach out?
I believe I called him.
All right. Were you able to talk to him?
I don't remember if it was that, if I spoke with him that day.
Did you also get a visit from federal law enforcement?
I did get, the US Marshals showed up at my office down in Houston.
Yeah. Do you remember what day that was?
Maybe October 1st.
Who was the first? Federal Marshals were at your office?
They came by my office.
Who was the first person you contacted?
I called Mr. Paxton, blowing his phone up. Like, why are there US Marshals at my office?
How many times you called him?
Probably 5-6 times, text messaging, and he answered his phone.
On the 5th time?
One of the times.
All right. And how often were you calling him until you got him?
Well, my secretary comes back and says, there's US Marshals here at the office, and I'm like, what? What's going on? And then I just start blowing his phone up until he answers it.
In your mind, certainly, had you done anything wrong that would merit anybody in law enforcement coming to see you in your mind?
No, sir.
All right. So the first person you called was the Attorney General?
Yes, sir.
And when you got him, what did he say?
He told me don't talk to him without counsel.
So he told you to get a lawyer before you talked to them?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you talk about the merits or anything of why they were there? Do this. What did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
Yeah, I said there's US Marshals at my office. What is this all about? And he told me, well, don't talk to him without a lawyer. I don't know what it's about either.
Okay.
And then hung up the phone.
He hung up the phone, or you hung up?
I don't remember. We both hung up the phone and went out there and greeted those gentlemen and went to my conference room, and I said, hey, with all due respect, I can't talk to you without having a lawyer present, but can I have a business card? And I got the business card from those two gentlemen, took a picture of it, and I sent it to Mr. Paxton. I said, these are the guys who showed up at my office, and that was that.
And so when you drove up there to Austin, to Mr. Paul's house, did you have any idea why you were there?
I mean, I figured because at this point, I've gotten a cease and desist letter. I've gotten basically the rug pulled out from under me. Like, I'm going and working, everything is okay, I'm getting affirmation that everything is good, and then all of a sudden I've got cease and desist letters, US Marshal showing up at my office, and I'm trying to figure out how did we go from that to this? And I'm just trying to get answers about what's going on, because I still don't know. And so that's what I figured this was all about. I went to the AG's office again.
And then who was there?
Brent Webster and Mr. Paxton.
And what happened there?
I thought we were going to meet to talk about the contract and what is going on, and but instead, they were like, well, let's not meet here in the office, and they walked me over to a Starbucks outside of the office to have a meeting.
Did you ask why?
No, but it was uncomfortable. It was not professional to me at all.
So when you go to the Starbucks, who all was there?
Mr. Paxton, Brent Webster, and then a couple other gentlemen who I don't know.
And what happened at that meeting?
At that meeting, Mr. Webster did all the talking and told me, well, in fact, your contract is not any good anymore. Stop working, don't do anything at all. I asked him, okay, well, what about, paying me?
Do you recall exactly how you put it about whether you were going to get paid? Did you put the amount in there?
I think I ballparked it, and I said, what about my $14,000 invoice? And he's like, well, you're going to have to eat that invoice. I've had to eat $40,000 invoices.
Webster said he had eaten a $40,000.
That sticks out in my mind, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Why does that stick out in your mind?
Just because it was offensive.
Yeah. What was the Attorney General doing during this whole conversation?
He was just listening in.
Did one of them tell you your contract was now terminated?
What Mr. Webster said.
How long did you at the Starbucks?
15 minutes, 20 minutes tops.
Did you feel better knowing that Mr. Webster says he had eaten a $40,000 debt before? Did that make you feel any better?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
How did it make you feel?
I don't know if I believed him or not, but I know it was offensive to me.
And then what happens? Anything you remember? What happened then?
Yeah, they left the Starbucks and tried to get in the car and drive off. I said, excuse me, can I get a ride back to my car?
So these guys take you to, are you saying that these guys took you over to a Starbucks outside the office, terminated your contract, told you weren't going to get paid, and then drove off, and if you hadn't said, wait, I got my car, they'd have left you in the street?
That's what it looked like.